My experience has been that companies r- rebrand when they are undergoing a metamorphosis. They are either evolving or changing into something. And it usually, again, starts with their core, business strategy, the kind of vision they have. Sometimes a new leadership happens, and or the companies, the leadership exchange hands, and the company is given a new makeover. They completely question their entire purpose and existence, and they figure out that this is who they are right now, but this is where they want to go. And the rebranding happens when they want to go, or they want to personify who they want to become. And it again, it's a very strategic decision. It starts with, again, the question why, finding out their purpose, building or visiting their vision statement, who they want to be, what is the vision, how are they going to engage with the world, what kind of business they are going to build, what kind of product or services they are going to offer, and how. And they re-look at their processes, re-look at everything, they re-look at their core values. And there is a big shift in the answers of all of these questions. And it actually starts at a very foundational level. So the rebranding is not just changing the logo. The rebranding is actually answering the question that why are they changing this logo? What are they trying to achieve? What had they been doing? And what are they going to do now? What is next? And that is the basic, that's the crux, that's the seed of the entire rebranding exercise, as far as I have seen. And then again, as I said, there is a certain science to building or choosing their new colors or new logos, and that itself is a process, which is, and once they answer these kind of questions and who they want to be, or what are the values that they want to depict, or what are the values that they want to talk about, where are they changing their story, what are those plot points which are changing. So once they are able to understand and answer these questions, and then the process of rebranding begins. So, with this thought, I would like to invite the speakers and and other people in the panel, moderators as well. If anybody would like to take a shot and share with us their experience or their insight in any of the rebranding exercise that they have participated.
Isha, can I?
Yes, please, Surjit.
Two brands that we were talking lately was Airtel and another brand is Pepsi. I happen to be in that exercise happened about Airtel. So let me share a couple of things that I remember what the exercise happened. One is, though often branding is seen like in a cosmetic visual change, but like you said, and many others said, before that happens, a lot kind of a water is kind of a, flowing under the bridge. And either you it happens, what I have observed for two reasons: either you are a leader who can think, say, 5 years ahead, and you can see what's coming on, so you want to change your course correction to do well, or as a follow-up, sometimes as a challenger brand, you know that you cannot take the leader head on, and you do some tweaking to. The second example of is of Pepsi. Again, the agency that I was working on, this to handle that. I'll come to that for a moment. For Airtel, what we constantly hearing that during that time, that in the branding game, they were constantly beaten by Hutch or Vodafone for a very, very long time. Uh, where it's to come to delivery, customer experience, or the way customer thinking of the brand in the end. Like the first question that you ask, the tangible, it kind of very well connected to me. It's like any good branding gives you something to believe more than just purchase. So what you want customers to believe, that also undergoes some changes. And Airtel wanted their customers to believe that they're a more young company, along with the huge technological changes they were bringing into their delivery system that they were bringing that time. For example, like Airtel thanks that we see the beginning of that app in which they wanted customers to be more and more automated self-service. That journey started. So from there, that journey of logo changed. Here is for Pepsi. When they were heading on Coca-Cola, they could not take them neither in terms of size, but they always wanted to be staying relevant by being irreverent, something that their main target audience who believe in it. So at the time when Coca-Cola branding was around global inclusive, Pepsi constantly talking to irreverent to one particular audience, for example campaigns like Mera Number Kab Aayega, so that they're, as a challenger brand, they kind of make themselves felt in the consumer's mind. These 2 points I wanted to share. I am sure, Rajit, I'm done.
So let me add, a couple of points here on the rebranding side. So as rightly mentioned by everyone, so branding or rebranding reasons, to do a company rebranding, there are multiple reasons associated with it. So first and foremost, one will be, getting outdated. Majority of the companies will be doing a rebranding exercise just because of the reason that they feel that the logo or the identity of that particular brand get outdated. So in the cycle of business, organization can often begin experience growth without necessarily having a professionally designed logo or a brand. So uh, so uh, when it comes to, at certain point when they think that that particular business is getting outdated or particular logo is getting outdated, they go for a rebranding thing. Second one will be the fundamental change. For an example will be BP, how BP has transition, moved away from the, fossil fuel to uh, solar energy. So they had incorporated the green into it. So beyond petroleum concept of a strategy, they rebranded the BP logo into and their, solar energy and renewable energy factor. So there will be a fundamental there metamorphosis of, the process of the company or the product, or adding more product or entering into wider geography. That metamorphosis will be another reason for majority of the brands to do rebranding exercise. And third one I would say will be, what do you say, the red sea and blue sea, blue ocean concept. So the competitor differentiation, when the particular domain get polluted with number of, more players and into the market. Mainly these leading brands in this particular industry or a particular segment will do go for a rebranding exercise just because of the reason of differentiating themselves with from the competitors. So there are some, 1 minute. That are some reasons why brands go for rebranding. There are many other reasons, even if you say product differentiation or relaunch of a new product or a service, or rightly mentioned by Anup, getting into a newer market where the persona of the consumers might be different. Brands think about going for a rebranding exercise. But at the core of all of it, majority of major percentage of the company do a rebranding exercise just because of the reason that, changing the clothes according to the, according to the ages getting outdated. So how we transitioned ourselves from bell bottom to skinny fit pants. So majority of the company do rebranding exercise just because of the reason, at least in India. But there are multiple reasons associated with it.
So, yes, Biju, yes, please.
Just one more question. I'm no expert in branding or rebranding, so that's the reason why I'm trying to understand. There are decisions that has to be taken at the boardroom or at the the senior management level, right? So when exactly you will take a decision of when to go for a rebranding or maybe infuse another brand, right? How would you look at the measurement of it? How would you measure the profitability or the return on investment on that?
Can I answer that question, Vijay?
Yes, please, AJ. So good to see you here.
Thank you, Nisha. Vijay, that's the most important question that you have asked. Brand is a financial value. The moment I see my P&L flattening, it's very clear that my brand is of no use. So, how do I make that decision of revitalizing my brand and increasing the value, or what we call as maximization? Now, that decision is taken in the board when there's a distinct brand equity study that you do, and there's a brand valuation model that is there. You go back and you find out where is that gap, why is the valuation decaying, and there are typical models that you use. for putting out what is the best value I can get, and then you start the rebranding exercise. The classical example is the ultra cement. Would any of you remember what was the cement called earlier? Why was it called ultra cement? It was simple because as the cement category was flattening out and the brand value, which is nothing but I think it was Birla Cements, they found out that the equity of Birla was not good enough and their share value was also coming down. To revitalize their financial value, they went and rebranded it as Ultra Cement, where they gave that a little more scientific perspective, made cement a complex product, not just a simple powder. So there is a model for that where you go back, do a equity study, there you do a valuation modeling, and then you find an appropriate place in the business to see how to reposition the brand. So rebranding is not changing of logo. Rebranding involves repositioning your entire business and your market space, and it and also it requires a certain product modification. You cannot take the same product and sell it in a new bottle. So you also have to do that back end work. So these are some of the techniques that are used in rebranding. And most importantly, rebranding does not necessarily happen only at a corporate level. It also happens at a product line. For example, a lot of paint companies, they have a categorization between interiors and exteriors. What happens is when you find your product range is not good enough, you don't have money to invest and grow both the segments. You try to reintegrate them and bring them into one product line or one brand line. So recently, Nerolac did that. So they figured out their interiors and between the interiors and exteriors, they found that the interior range, which is called as immersion, was not creating the kind of returns that they were looking for, and the advertising expenditure was not giving them ROI. So what they did is they integrated both this into one brand called Excel, and they saw the top line growing. So it's largely a business decision which will allow me to increase the volume or the value perception in the market.
That's absolutely great. Thank you for that answer.
Beautifully
Uh,
explained, AJ. And that's why we love very well explained. Yes,
just
Viju.
one more question around that, can I?
Yes,
Sure.
please. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned most of the KPIs that you mentioned is basically the tangibles, right? The top line, the bottom line, the equity, valuation, etc. What about the intangibles? Is there a measurement for that? Say, for example, brand also has got a creates a perception about customer experience, the positivity, etc. Right?
that is
Can you
that
please?
is that is actually what is measured in the brand equity. The intangibles are also taken as part in the brand equity measure, both the tangible, which is a cost benefit analysis in terms of need versus value perception, as well as the intangible one. Now, where does an intangible one sit? The intangible one typically sits in terms of the emotional responses and how do people react to the shifts. So if there is an experience, now if I shift the brand from a particular experience, if I have to augment the experience, then I have to put a business value around it. What is this cost of this experience, and how much is it going to cost me to deliver this experience? Am I so there's always belief that I have to add the experience in terms of if I'm rebranding. It's not necessary. You could still hold the experience at the same level and deliver better results. So if the intangible also are converted into a measurable thing. If you don't do that, then your value, the brand value cannot be accounted for. So I let me see if I can give an example. Some of the look at Taj. When Taj brought a new range of products, for example, you can see this in brand extensions. The Ginger hotels, the they had a 4 star and they had a 3 star and there are 5 star. So the kind of experience in each of them was subtly different, but they had each of them had their own value. So that's something that you can do. And often this is a challenge in the hospitality or leisure business. It is not so much in the case of products.
I have one example. After the financial crisis of 2008, Ford, the motor company, mortgaged their brand and their trademark as a representation of the brand. It was mortgaged for a value of $22 billion. That was a value ascribed to that brand at that point of time.
So great example.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah. So Biju, I hope you got your answers. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss right now, or we can move?
I can go ahead and ask a few more questions, but then I leave it to the others in the room.
Sure.
Sorry.
So
Thank
if
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Dad.
no, you're very welcome, Biju. Yes, Deepak, I see you flashing your mic, so please do go ahead.
Thank you, Nisha, and I appreciate your perspective, AJ. It's really very valuable. You have a good command on your domain expertise, and I got, whatever be the questions, or I was having in my head, and you have clearly exampled that things. I have one small question, if you allow me to ask.
Sure,
You may
sure.
have an answer for that. So I was thinking, rebranding always not pays off to the companies, because it also give a setback to the already existing customers. For instance, like let's say we talk about the Parle G, right? So Parle G is having the same brand logo, and because it is a product based, right? For the service based, you can tell them, the people, like, we have upgraded our systems. We are now more powered with the latest technologies and all. But somewhere, I believe rebranding also plays a negative impact onto the product line, or maybe the trust factor that the already the customers have. Is it okay, or means I need your thoughts on this, AJ?
Okay,
Specific.
so in my experience, this is something that we factor in. That is, how do you rebrand? How do you reinvent yourself without losing your existing customer base?
Okay. Yeah, I think that because one value that you have attained in that particular industry, it's not an easy to rebrand as well, because customer lose, that they might have, with the new packing stuff, now this is different. Instead of getting on
To do
on
the
the positive.
brand equity analysis,
Right.
uh, the most important factor is to see that you don't displace your existing loyal customers. Okay, now how do you go about doing that? Now, you when you do this research, you know very clearly what are the reasons why the existing customers buy your brand. Now, and therefore when you go into rebranding, you make sure those elements are maintained and they are not isolated. However, given this, in reality, when the rebranding happens, there is always going to be some set of customers from your existing base who will drop out temporarily. That's probably because they will feel that this brand is moved away from them and it doesn't fit their need. But most often, like Surajit said, Airtel did not lose its market share at all. The customers who continued to Airtel continued to use Airtel. In fact, their ARPU levels went up because they found there were more value perception coming through the new imagery. Now, again, what I want to discuss in rebranding is, what is rebranding? Is it about changing your image? Is it a market positioning, or is it about changing your product line? Now, this is a very important question that we need to know, because rebranding can happen at various levels, and each of these levels have a very distinct objective. So, for instance, if I'm changing a logo, but I maintain Hindustan Lever did that. If you see, Hindustan Lever did a very interesting logo where they created every attribute of their business in as part of their logo to define the entire area of businesses that they serve. Now, how much has that logo helped us? It started creating a unique visual identity, but also tried to convey the bigness of the organization. So, where do you rebrand? Is it at a logo level? Is it at a semiotic level? Is it at a product level? Is it at a positioning level? Now, that is something that has to be thought through. And when you do this, Deepak, the answer that you were looking for, will my customers leave me or how do I hold them back, will be addressed here.
Exactly. Thank you, AJ. Thank you so much for your valuable inputs. And I basically I was looking for this from the India side, what's going on there. I work closely with on the sales side in the North America market for a couple of other brands like Microsoft and Expedia and other like Trinet, uh, Oracle, like these brands. So I was curious to know about how the India is going on. So you guys are doing awesome, in this group, and thank you for adding the values in my knowledge base. I appreciate. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Deepak. AJ, I would love to have you introduce yourself. You bring so much value and you always bring such, amazing conversations in the room. So the mic is all yours. AJ, if you could just quickly introduce yourself and then we move to the next part of the discussion.
Thank you, Nisha. Um, I have spent 25 years in branding and advertising, and I'm a consumer psychologist. And my job is to build insights and work between the agency and client in bridging the marketing and product strategy and the communication strategy. So, a behavioral scientist, so invariably concepts of branding, rebranding, the, the behavioral and the psychological frameworks are all my ownership. Um, I also have about 2 years, what 6 years experience in consumer tech. I started India's first online consumer research portal called Attitude.com, where we use gaming as a concept to bring people of different age groups, different types to run researchers there, consumer insighting. I exited that. I'm in a current second startup, which is more focused on AI and ML based solutions in marketing and business. So this is what I do. Thank you very much.
Nisha, since it's 9:30 room, let me share one nice trivia around Parle G within
Sure,
Clubhouse. That is Deepak
sure,
last night.
Surajit. Yes.
Uh, like Deepak, if you see there's a very popular Parle G pack is rupees 5, and rupees 5 for a very very long time, and it is since it was started price, the material cost has gone up 150%.
Yeah.
But the yeah, but the competition is so much, and the volume game is so high. Nobody even likes to play around with that. I thought I'll share that trivia.
Thanks, Suruchi. So, with the branding and rebranding, another very important point is, especially for any startup or, young businesses, the brand value of the founder. And oftentimes it's the founder who drives the business till it reaches a certain scale, and then the corporatization happens. Then the governance kind of happens. Possibly the funding comes in, and other multiple stakeholders come in too. So it's very interesting to note that a lot of founders have an amazing personal branding. And again, the favorite example is Steve Jobs. But we also have a lot of other people who have this amazing, strong presence. They have this. They just known, or for example, their business is known by the virtue of who they are. So I would really like to talk about personal branding as well. And Anup, I would like to start with you. Especially in this day and age of social media, personal branding has become a multi-layered, nuanced term. So, Anup, what is your take on this term, personal branding? A and B, how do you think personal branding of the business?
I think at the end of the day, only personal brands are the one which we remember, be it for their notoriety, maybe a Hitler, or their civility, or their courage. All Abraham Lincolns to Mahatma Gandhi to Nehru to Churchill to everybody else, right? So now these are people. These are people of greats of history. Depends on whose version of history, of course. But that's what is remembered. But people remember people for the deeds they did, and for the history, for due to the historians who wrote history too. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, right, in today's time, very easy to become influential and become an influencer because of various reasons, and it becomes very easy for a founder to attach themselves to the brand of the company. Anand Mahindra is doing a good job in India, but he's kind of loosely coupled. he's not the entire definition of his brand, fortunately, because it can be disastrous. Look at SpaceX, look at Tesla. SpaceX and Tesla are Elon Musk's company. That's the way they are branded. Elon Musk is everything there. Or Elon Musk steps down, we don't know if those companies will survive. In fact, Elon Musk goes into a studio and smokes a cigarette, and the stock prices plummet because his brand is so closely associated with the company. Tesla has been trying to kind of, create a standalone identity, but they have not been able to do it. The cars are known, the products are known, the company, no, it still rests firmly on Elon's shoulder. He moves, the company falls. Good and bad, both are there. It's one way. Now, I have a quizzical thing also, right? Many people whom we consider brands are well known for one or two or three things, or deliberately created brands. I would say a lot of celebrity coaches brands are very deliberately created. They haven't moved earth, they have not done great work if you actually think about them in the context of whom we consider greats, but their brands are deliberately created. So is a celebrity brand. So the question around what is a good brand and what is a personal brand is interesting. What you remember about a person is probably their personal brand, but a person has multiple things, right? Multiple different. Um, I mean, a person is a holistic thing. I mean, how should I put it? There are multiple aspects of a person, but one aspect is always showcased, and we brand that person across that. Elon Musk is supposedly a genius. Sachin Tendulkar, a great batsman, right? Shah Rukh Khan is supposedly a great actor, and so on and so forth. But branding a person in anybody's mind is very easy because their deeds are out there for you to see and scrutinize. Question is, if somebody wants to brand themselves today, so again, I'm giving you all these examples. I'm also adding a little bit of masala because it's a 9:30 room. But beyond that, if someone wants to brand themselves today, what should they do? And we have a lot of examples in the room itself. We can start AJ at the bottom and say, what does AJ represent as a brand? We have heard AJ multiple times, or Sabrish for that matter, or Vatsala, or Shurajit, or Biju, or Deepak. What would you say if you are a branding person? What would you say is their brand? Just an example. I mean, please take it lightly. It's not supposed to be a serious thing at all. But if you were to define a brand around them, how will you do it? What are the artifacts required to do that? Open question. Over to you, Nisha.
An amazing question, Anur, and I'm so glad you didn't take my name. I was, cringing inside, and I was praying to God that you wouldn't say Nisha, you wouldn't add to it.
I didn't
But
say
say,
my
for
name
example,
either.
yeah, good thing. So for AJ, I would just say somebody who has a lot of clarity, for example, insight, experience, knowledge, and empathy as well, who is highly educated. And I would think all of these elements actually shape the way I perceive him. I don't know him as a person at all. I've only engaged with him on Clubhouse, but he does represent certain tangible and intangible qualities and attributes, and that is how I would always, perceive AJ. So that is his brand equity in my, mind space. This is how I see him. AJ, I would love to love for you to tell me what do you think. Am I accurate, off the mark, on the mark? How do you see yourself? What do you think your personal brand is?
You've been very magnanimous on me. That's all I can tell you.
Oh no, not at all. I'm sure the room room shares my. I
Okay.
think the room will share my perception to
That's
anyone.
very nice of you. I mean, it's good. But yes, on a serious note, it's a very important question that you raised, Nisha. Personal branding. Let me start with some interesting examples, so that we can walk through the example and say why personal branding very important and how does it add to the value company. You know, we spoke about guys. Let's talk about a very simple Indian brand like Everest Masala. You know, if you see today, we associate with the founder. Now the question is, what is the relevance of putting a person, a founder, onto a or India's number one spice brand like Everest? It's not just about building credibility. They have already built a credibility. They Everybody knows the kind of quality they do. But what that means is, it is about personifying. Now when you create a brand, there are various aspects. Biju asked a question: how do you take the tangible attributes and how do you take the intangible attributes and how do you evaluate? One of the most important intangible value that you need to look for is the personification, the personal equity that gets transferred to the brand. Now, at what level does this get transferred? Is it coming like in the case of Steve Jobs, the persona, the charming, the personality of this individual, the way he translated that into the romancing the technology that the brand brought out was almost a very close fit. The way he spoke, the way he talked about the technology, it was almost like everything that Apple, that laptop carried was what Steve Jobs is about. So we did a very interesting study when we were trying to map what is the association, what is the personality that each brand throws. I remember in one of the researchers, the response that we got is that when a person is using an Apple a laptop, they literally felt it was like, it's all about Steve Jobs. It's about the way he spoke, and it's almost his manifestation there in that product. So this is an intangible value that most of the time you need to leverage, because that helps the brand to stand out a little bit more, and that personality is something that you cannot copy. I can copy the brand's image, I can copy the brand's positioning in many ways. I can bring a very relative state to my brand with a competition, but what I cannot copy in total is the personification. Like Anup said, the way Anand Mahendra, he is personifying himself around the brand Mahindra, is giving the Mahindra brand an edge. Every time they do something, it adds something more to the brand. So in South, there are some very interesting examples. I don't know if you all are aware of. There are massive retailers who have built the brand only around them. Everybody must have heard. There is this guy called Saravana. He he literally, he is the hero of his brand. He built that brand, a retail brand. He's got best of the celebrities working in his commercials, and he acts and he dances, he does everything. So much so, he is now making a film. He's challenging the biggest heroes in Tamil Nadu. He is taking his personal brand to the next level, so much so that he can differentiate his retail, because there are umpteen number of retail units with the same name. So he's creating a different personification, which is extremely tangible value. An intangible attribute is becoming a tangible value. There is another huge white good appliance dealer in Tamil Nadu. Is called Vasant and Co. He just passed away. Unfortunately, this man passed away because of COVID last year. You know, it's his face on the brand, and it stands for trust and quality. So when you look at personal branding, the transfer of personal equity brings that unbreakable value to the brand and keeps on increasing. Siddharth Lal, today Royal Enfield is all about Siddharth Lal. Now the regeneration of the brand has happened in the way, exactly the way he is, and the way he lives his life, exactly the way the brand is grown. So personal branding is extremely important. You need to know how to position yourself. It is not about positioning yourself. You need to cultivate those attributes inside you, and they have to be visibly available, so much so you can transfer it to your brand at any point in time. These are my points. Thank you.
Thanks, AJ. Amazing points as always. And so I would just like to invite other speakers here who would. Oh, yes, Rachel. Yes, please.
Again, I have got a question for AJ, or any in the panel. Um, you know, as they say that this brand resonance, right, is at the top of the brand equity pyramid, and it is most difficult to and which is most desirable, right? Can you please throw some light into brand resonance and the measurement of that, as well as the personal brand?
Yeah, Vatsala, would you like to take this question? Um, or
Ye-
I will just like to invite AJ and Anurag is here. Anurag
Just
is
give me 2 3 minutes. I will.
sure, sure. Yeah, Vatsala, you can go first.
Okay, so Biju brought up a very good point about brand resonance. And I think personal branding sometimes is not related to brand resonance at all. And an example that I like to give you is Elon Musk, like Anoop talked about him, and also Ankur Warikoo from India. That's a very good example of a personal brand. And you see that nearby, Ankur Warikoo is the CEO of Nearby, and Nearby as a brand is not as popular as Ankur Warikoo is. So I was led to Nearby because of Ankur Warikoo. There are other brands that go in the opposite direction, but if you see Ankur Warikoo's content, if you see how he defines his brand, he rarely talks about Nearby. You can go to his Instagram, you can go to his LinkedIn. He rarely even talks about Nearby, and yet we are led to his brand because of the persona. So, am I audible? I think
Yes, yes.
yes. So, your personal brand may not always resonate with what you are doing, but as long as you're doing it well, as long as you're creating a credibility, as long as your brand is associated, your personal brand is associated with a positive image, it's doing a good job of branding your company as well. So those are my inputs, and I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Vatsala. Great inputs. So, just to refresh the room, Anu, would you like to refresh the room here? Reset the room once again, please. There are a lot of new speakers on the panel, and then we'll go to those speakers one by one and engage them in the conversation. Anu, so over to
All
you.
right. Thank you, Nisha. So this is All India Startups, one of the largest startup community on Clubhouse, and we are branding and rebranding room today, or as I like to call it, 9:30 Kapila Ranewala room. So it's supposed to be a light-hearted room, but we tackle serious topics as far as possible, trying to pull each other's legs. And in the while doing all that, learn a little bit. And today we are trying to unravel this mystery called branding and rebranding and personal branding. So we have traveled for the past 1.5 hours and reached to a place now where we are saying, hey, what about personal brand and the brand of the company? How are they related? And I have also posed a question to the panel, right? There are a lot of people in the panel. Let us define each person's personal brand. What do they mean to us as a brand? So that is just lighthearted. Don't take it seriously, please. But Biju had a question about equity, right? Personal brand versus um, company brand. Yes, company brand we can measure what is equity and brand equity and the value. We can even evaluate that apparently. But what happens when the personal brand gets associated with the company's brand? And how do you unravel that? AJ, over.
So, to answer your question, Anup, how do you do that? There is something called as I need to go a little bit into simplify that. Uh, when you look at personal brand, what we need to do is you have to treat that personal brand as a separate entity from the brand. We call this as a balance theory. For example, if I'm looking to hire a celebrity, it is important that I find an interacting relationship between the celebrity brand and the consumer. The theory says that there has to be a balance between these three. So when you look at a personal brand, now if it is a founder's personal, if it is a founder or anybody else, we have to treat that founder as an entity and see what does the founder give to the brand, and therefore what does the brand give back to the founder. It is very important. It is not a one-way traffic. So in the resonance model, it is about when you use the concept of resonance, it's about the relationship at the highest level. What is that you and I have, or what is that you can connect with me, and how to what degree. So what we do here is one of the metrics that we try to measure here is if I have to look at from a celebrity to the brand and the celebrity to a consumer, We have to make sure that the relationship between the celebrity and the consumer is not that of a fan base. It is very important. And if I find that that is a fan base, then it's a negative trait, because then the consumer's equity to the brand will not have salience with the relationship. So in a scenario like this, the metric that we take is, at the bottom, the brand should outweigh the personality of the celebrity or the personality of the founder. It is then it becomes a brand by itself. So a brand can give the founder a personality, it is positive. But if the personality of the founder outweighs that of the brand, then it is negative, because you are talking of a human being, and human beings are not perfect. Therefore, in the real world, if there is a flaw that happens, then it will hit the brand equity very strongly. Therefore, we always advise the client, when founders want to become the brand ambassadors, they want to be the face of the brand. We tell them to take on the equity of the brand, the attributes of the brand, and live it, rather than they transferring their attribute. Now, that's exactly what you talked about Elon Musk. Elon Musk is trying to transfer his equity to the brand, which is dangerous, because if he smokes and he does something, it will affect the brand. On the other side, if you have certain attributes of the brand and you want to mimic, then you're reinforcing it and you're building a credibility to you and your brand. So we call this as a balance theory. And it is very clear that if I have to choose the founder and the brand, the relationship is the brand should have a positive score more than that of the founder. I hope this theoretical framework is pretty easy for you to understand. Thank you.
Thanks, AJ. That's that was comprehensive, and that was very well balanced. I love the way you structure your answers, and it really really does bring so much clarity into the whole discussion. So with that, we move to the next part of the question, which is branding or personal branding important, especially for the startups? What kind of role does it play? What kind of role does the founder's brand equity play in pushing that startup forward? By pushing the startup forward, I also mean, for example, raising funds, or selling the product, or launching the service, or whatever it is. Anurag, I would like to hear from you. You have been a startup founder, and you have also been working in private equity for quite some time. What does brand equity or personal branding, what kind of role does it play? Um, so my question is, okay, let me just rephrase. What kind of role does a personal brand of a founder play in pushing that startup forward?
Hey, thanks, Nisha. I guess I won't have any specific new point to sort of share, but it will be a culmination of what the other speakers have kind of mentioned. One thing that it definitely helps is from a discoverability perspective, right? uh, and it definitely helps people discover the actual company, the actual product which is being promoted by the founder or by the person. So for example, someone gave the example of Uncle Wariku. That's a very good example. You can also consider what Mr. Vijay Shekhar Sharma is doing, or even Kunal Shah is doing, right? So a founder's brand image, or a founder's image, using founder brand image, but a founder's image does help in the discoverability of the company or the service or the product. That's one, right? Um, Second very important aspect is, see, whenever as humans, whenever we see a promotion of a specific brand or a specific service, there is a lack of personal connect, right? I mean, I as a person, I cannot associate myself with a specific brand or a service unless and until it means something really good to me, right? So that's the reason you typically see always a human face to any kind of an advertisement, or any kind of a promotion when people are sort of talking about from a service or an app or even a brand, right? So it becomes very easy to associate yourself with that product, with that mission of the company, or with that service, once you associate yourself or see similarities between you and the person who's kind of promoting it. That's one of the reasons why we do have this the concept of brand ambassadors as well. The reason they are being bought into it, because they are able to connect with the masses, right? Now that connection is established maybe through different means. Someone, we know about social media influencers who have a certain audience with whom they can connect, and the audience is able to relate themselves with that particular influencer because they specialize in one particular niche or one particular vertical, right? We talk about celebrities of Mr. Amir Khan, associating, being the brand ambassador of Snapdeal, or even Tata, as a matter of fact. Uh, right now, I guess he's promoting PhonePe, right? So it sort of helps in establishing that human connect with that particular product or that service. uh, that's one way to sort of look at it. uh, for a founder's brand image also helps in getting access to certain platforms or certain mediums where you can have a discussion, where you can introduce about your service. See, at certain points, for example, if you want to, let's say, advertise about your product at a conference, right? So you have to pay particular amount. You have to purchase a space over there. You have to, sponsor and do stuff like that. But if you have, as a founder or as a co-founder, even as a matter of fact, if you are able to sort of, if you have a particular brand as such of yours, you would be able to sort of talk about your product or your service without actually buying that space into that conference, right? So people go into that conference to listen to the people. They don't go there to check out which brands are there, which companies are there, which services are there, but they go out to those events or to those places to sort of listen to these folks, and learn from their experiences, and then you sort of get to know, okay, this person is promoting this idea and this brand. Hey, this looks nice. I'm actually going to try. So this is how I what has helped us at Ziffy as well. I mean, for example, we hardly did any sort of a marketing campaign as such, except for a brief amount of time in 2015 when we had raised some funds from Times Group in India. But beyond that, after that, we have not spent. I mean, in our entire lifetime at Ziffy, we had spent less than $50,000 in marketing, or even between $75,000 to $50,000. The rest was all very organic, and we used to associate ourselves with different people. And as a founder, one of my key activities or most important factor was to all attend at least two conferences every month. So that's how I was able to sort of promote our brand, our company, our product across industry, across different groups, across different verticals as well. And that's how we were able to sort of go from a few hundred trips a month in 2015, 2016 to over 10 million trips in 2019. So that's something which I can share from my own personal experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anurag. I think, great share, great insight, beautifully articulated. And sorry, anybody else in the room who would like to take this question about rebranding? Surjit, I can see you flashing your mic. So yes.
I
So
think
just to reset, the question was that how does how does personal branding help a business or even a startup launch and push or scale and evolve? And so that Anurag has beautifully summed up what he sees. And Surajit, I would love to hear what you have to say about this.
so. Let me bring in two different verticals that are hugely dependent on personal branding. Um, One I will speak about. One I think two are the best to speak about. The business around social impact, where you are driving a cause or doing something good. That vertical is heavily dependent on personal branding. Whether you are a founder, you're part of that management team, what you do in your personal space around that is totally drives your brand. For example, let's talk about the brand from Bombay called Refillable. So what they are doing, they are encouraging people not to discard one-time use, single-use bottles that comes with house cleaning products. They come to your society, they refill your product so that there is less plastic. Now, these three young boys in there, from the moment they stepped out of college, they constantly went ahead and communicated again and again that they are very conscious about sustainability, they are conscious about, they're careful about how plastic pollution or the garbage
Just
is
one
managed.
second, Surjit, just hold on. I'm not sure if it's just me or if Surjit is not very clear. I'm not sure, Surjit. If you could come closer to the mic because either your voice is breaking. I'm not sure if it's my network either. I don't. What do you think?
No, he's even I'm not able to hear.
Sure.
He's
Thanks,
fading
Samira.
and coming back.
Yeah, Surjit, if you could come closer to the mic,
Am
please.
I audible now?
Much better. Thank
Better?
you. Yep. Yep.
Right. I don't know till how far I was audible. I was talking about, in terms of personal branding, the social impacts, businesses. Their personal branding is extremely important. As a founder, how you conduct yourself and how you behave yourself in a larger space, that totally drives your business. And I was giving the examples of this brand called Refillable. What they do is, they encourage you not to discard one-time use packaging when it comes to cleaning products, and they come to your society and refill it and ask you to reuse it so that you can reduce the garbage. So these three founders, they have, the moment they stepped out and they started their business, they constantly demonstrated that as a personal choice they also believe in this process, and they do it again. That is one, I think, extremely important. And second, when it comes to political space where you create a lot of political branding and rebranding, uh, what you do as a person is extremely important part of personal branding. The common thread that I see, that where the doing part comes on the front as a doer brands, there the personal branding comes really strong, and you have to very careful that how you are attributing your personal brand to the overall brand that you represent. And I think, Nisha, you can speak a bit about the political space because you do some great work there. Thank you. I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Surajit. Thank you so much. So I'll hold on to my political work for. I mean, especially in this room right now, Surajit. I'll just hold on to that for a minute. But my next question to the room would be, what is the most important ingredient of personal branding? What do you think? What works, what doesn't work, what is one thing which definitely almost always works, and what are the things that one should avoid or be aware of. What are those elements? So please flash your mic again. This is in a popcorn style. Oh yes, Mani and Jyoti, so good to see you here. So Mani, would you like to take?
One quick announcement, Nisha, I wanted to make, if I may.
Sure, yes please, yes please.
I know a lot of people are in the audience and they would like to ask questions too. Please feel free to ping me on back channel and ask your questions in case you don't want to come up, or even if you're on the stage and you think you will be missing your turn or you're not getting the chance, please ping me and I will ensure that we address that. Thank you. With that, over to you.
Thanks, Anoop. Very kind. See, this is your personal brand. Very aware. I love that. So yes, Mani, I think you were flashing your mic. So yes, over to you.
Thank you, Nisha, for giving me this chance. And of course, I just wanted to share that I believe every founder needs to be a chief storytelling officer for their particular startup. I think you need to portray your solution as the protagonist of the story, which your customer could resonate well with, and how well and efficient and effectively you do so. I think that changes the whole game. So, in terms of the content, even as you're mentioning about, I think it need to be the story element need to be a GHTC way, that is genuine, honest, trustable content. So I think that's the framework which I have made for my particular startup, and based on that, I think a lot more founders are already there that have been doing this very effectively. I think we are a logistics founder, maybe Vijay Shankeshwar. Mr. Ajim Premji of Wipro, and even Carl Pai of OnePlus. So these are the examples. So just summing up this whole branding thing, I just wanted to say that branding is nothing but what your customer feels or thinks about you. So these are my two takes, and thank you.
Thank you, Mani.
I
Very,
have
very
a.
well put together. Yes. Sorry, yes, Anish.
See this suddenly flashed. Hey, if what your customer thinks and feels about you is what brand is, then why put any money at all in branding?
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
No, no, that was a snipe take on it. I
He
was
No,
just
didn't get
saying
it.
no,
that
no, but Anup, that's a
So,
very
but
important point. That's a very important point you have raised. You know, let me explain that if it is okay with you, Nisha.
sure, absolutely, AJ. Please
You
go for
know,
it. Yeah.
look, the most important thing, Nisha, the question that you asked is what is the most important variable that a personal brand, a founder, if you have to look at a founder and what is that that you need to translate. It is the value and the belief system. It is not his knowledge, it is not his capability, it is not his skill. That's all define us. It's all just about the role. But what stands up is value. All the examples that Mani spoke about are people who exhibit exemplary value, belief, and uh, factors that are extremely, extremely intangible. And you have to live by it every moment. Now, that is what is translated into equity. So, if you're a founder and you want to build your brand, you want to take a startup, it has to be on your core value system and your belief system. What you are, what your technical capabilities are, how brilliant you are, what solution you bring to the table, or second steps, because those can be copied, those can be mimicked, those can be imitated. But what cannot be imitated as a founder, as a personal brand, is your value and your belief. That's what is going to take you forward. And all the examples that we have, right from Mr. Ratan Tata to Vipro Premji, anybody, they're all not a financial brand. They're all value brand. We call them as wealth brands. I know that is not something that is easy to measure.
Wonderful points, AJ, and I think so. So yeah, these are the kind of answers, and these are the kind of insights we are looking at, and I'm actually writing them down as we speak. Sort of great points that has come out of this whole discussion. Anup, you wanted to say something, I guess.
No, no, no. I'm
Oh,
just the Narad Muni in the room today. Just
sure.
inciting.
Yeah. I got
Ravi
the joke.
wanted
I'm
to.
not
Ravi
sure
has
if a
been
lot of you
flashing
have
his
got it.
hand.
Yeah, sure. So yes, Jyoti, you are flashing, and Ravi is flashing. So Ravi, you go first, and then we come to Jyoti.
Hmm. I know Anup in this room, and I'm glad to be in this room, knowing the other speakers also. Personal branding goes very strongly with the luxury brands. Any luxury brands which are there into the market, it always go with the personal name or a personal company. And second, one of the most thing, liquor, means whiskey and wine. Anybody taste or anybody who like to have that always go with the personal value. So these are my just two cents inputs. The personal brandings are very important at certain levels. And as I'm a fan of a MotoGP, so if you take the example of Valentino Rossi, he had not taken any championship since 2019. Yamaha till date. Means he's going to retire at the in the 2022. 2009 to 2021, Yamaha didn't get any rider or any biker who can match the Valentino Rossi, and he is the only guy who can bring the entire crowd. Means he is not winning anything, but he still brings a lot of the crowds whenever the MotoGP takes place. You will still see we are 46 banners, we are 46 t-shirts, we are 46 caps, and we are 46 stands still there. So personal branding is very much important.
Thank you, Ravi. And with Jyoti, I think you were flashing, and then Jyoti can go first, and then Manthan.
Hello, I'm Jyoti and I'm a LinkedIn strategist, which is actually a branding platform. And I work for other clients. So, what I've always noticed that whenever someone is building a brand, you will see that they put a variety of content, and some of the most viral content is anecdotal content. Why does it gets viral? Because everybody wants to buy something which resonates with them. When the person is showing that I am not someone special, I wasn't born a superhero, I am one amongst you, and I just came up here and all my failures and all my successes have equally contributed in my journey. When they can, like, they put this empathy into their content, that boosts the branding like anything. And I'm telling you that this type of content goes viral the most. So I think empathy is one of the core qualities of personal branding. Thank you.
Full point, Jyoti. I really like the fact, yes, empathy is the core point of personal. Were you did you want
I
to add
have
to
a
on?
slight different opinion on that. I'm not going to disagree, but there is a bit of a tightrope on this. What we call as the underdog story. You know, it's a very common template that's used in personal branding. There are many avatars that you take when it comes to personal brand. You become a hero, you become a underdog, become a challenger. There are many ways you define it. Now, when you put empathy, and often when you take empathy, what happens is there is a lot of emotional connect. And but this does not fit all the avatars as we call them. Um, it is a human trait, agreed. But typically, the underdog stories resonate empathy a lot. And can we use it? Yes, you can use it. But there is also an ethical part to that. So we would always, in my branding experience, I have done a lot of personal branding for people from politicians to business leaders to others. Um, I've always said keep that out because that's your personal story. It's nice that people want to hear it. People may also want to sort of live it. But there are other values that you can bring to the front which many don't have. Anybody can take empathy, it's a human trait. But there
Yeah. Again, one more question. Is there anything in branding that is not measurable? Is there anything in branding that is not really measurable?
Not in my books. There is a way to measure everything. If you can operationally define it, you can measure.
Great. And you can even measure the tangible as well as intangibles, right?
So when you talk about measuring as a concept, the definition is any concept or any construct you take. If you can write an operational statement about that, then you can measure it.
Great. So everything, all the aspects of branding do have that, right?
I can tell you that it is measurable. It can be. It depends on how you look at it and how you, as a brand owner or a brand custodian, you want to go about doing it. Um, as a researcher, as a mathematician, as a statistician, I can assure you that I can measure there is enough tools for you to do that. It's about, as I said, as simple as writing a statement. Let's say you have an intangible attribute and you want to write a statement about it. In that statement, you'll get a definition, you'll get a word, and you know how to therefore go out and measure the word. At least at a qualitative level, you'll try and measure it.
So thank you, AJ. And I think we've got about almost 15-20 minutes now to close the room. But I also want to just bring, just talk about a very something that has been on my mind for some time. Post pandemic, how what kind of tonality does the brand should adopt? I was reading an article recently which talked about the fact that the brands have to show that they care about people. Because the COVID, that's pandemic, has left people very raw emotionally, and brands should respond to that. So I would really like to throw this question at the room, and I would like to hear everybody's view on how do they see the branding as a science and an art evolving, and how are brands going to connect with their audience, and how are they going to engage with their audience, what kind of qualities that they will bring to that entire conversation and communication that they build with their audience. So the room is open, the question is open to the room, and please flash your mic if whoever wants to take this question first. Oh, no
Oh,
one.
oh, I can. I have two, three great examples. Ajay, you go first. Otherwise, I was
No, no,
thinking to
no.
start
All
from
I
the
right.
was, I was,
bottom of it.
I was talking. I mean, I was getting bored of. I thought let me hear from others. I was just sort of
Okay.
waiting
So
for somebody.
Surajit, I have seen Anurag also flashing his mic. So Surajit, you go first. Anurag, you can go next.
Let's
And
Anurag
AJ.
speak. I think I have spoken.
Okay.
Anurag, go ahead.
Anurag. Anurag, the stage is yours.
Yeah, I was really hoping Surjit will speak before me so that I can, streamline my thought. But that's okay. So, uh, see, from where I see, it really depends upon what kind of a message or what kind of a story you are pushing out, right? For example, the branding that the team at Amul does, or uh, the branding at Pidilite Industries, right? They don't directly sell their product, specifically Febicol, right? Um, what they have sort of done is the biggest benefit or the key feature of their product. They have tried to replicate that, or they have tried to associate that with some funny and a fun anecdotal experience in real life. For example, the whole statement.
You don't exaggerate, you don't create expectations that are not deliverable. Now there is a certain time when brands did exaggerate and it was accepted and not looked, not um, considered as a sin by consumers. They overlook that. They forgive the brand at times, but that will not the case anymore. So you have to be straightforward, you have to be truthful, you have to be simple, and you also have to understand very clearly the necessities of the client and not over deliver just because you want to make more revenue. Now we ask some examples. What kind of communication do you prefer? What is the kind of symbols that you like to do? What are the things that you don't want to see in an ad? That's what we were trying to aim here. Uh, People did not have any specific answer there, but we certainly realized that they don't want to see agonizing communication. They don't want to see somebody who's suffering and then there is a problem solution and you come out of it, which means they don't want to see a fair and lovely kind of an ad at all. They want to see ads which are more positive. They want to see communication which tells them that this is what can happen, but they want to have at the same time communication which will lead them to have very high expectation. The reality is something else. Now these are some of the interesting insights that came up in the research that we did. I would say it is comprehensive, but these are very clear indicators, at least at this point in time.
Great points, AJ. And actually, these are the kind of conversations I wanted to build. And, you have actually underlined all the important facts that I think every branding campaign or every branding exercise must very, very aware of. Uh, being straightforward, being truthful, and must not exaggerate, I think is really the way forward, at least for the some foreseeable future. So I think we have got 5 more minutes to go, and I'll start wrapping up this room now. Anup, I see you flashing your mic. So do you
We
want to
have,
add something to it?
I just wanted to trigger the ritual we have every day. I don't know if you're aware of that, Nisha. We start at the bottom of the PTR and we give everybody 15 seconds to tell about their impression of the room. That's one question. And today I want to just add second question, which is what is your brand? So over to you, Nisha. Or shall I take over and do
Yes,
that?
please. Yes, please, Anup. Thank you.
All right, happy to do that. All right, starting at the bottom, Jitinder, your impression of the room today and what's your brand according to you?
I think it was very insightful, and I was listening to AJ as well. And it is always great to listen Nisha and Anup. So yeah, it was great for me. It was something very insightful. Thank you.
Thanks, Jitinder. Thanks for being here. Dipen, what's your impression of the room and what's your brand?
Hi, Anup. It was a very nice and very fruitful discussion, and
Dipen, lost you there. Can you repeat that?
yeah, hi. Uh, Thank you, Anup. Thank you, Nisha. Thank you, everyone. It was a wonderful discussion, really helpful, and I learned a lot and got some very good new perspectives about some of my thoughts and ideas. So, thank you so much, all. Yeah.
Money, over to you.
I was really mesmerized by the amount of knowledge you guys are carrying. I was just here to listen and learn from you guys, and even I was back channeling you, Arup sir, and a lot to learn, I think, and I have learned a lot more things, and I've been noting those particular points. So thanks.
Thank you. Anurag, over to you. Please do answer what's your brand. Everybody is trying to escape that question.
Okay, okay. Oh, I'll do share that. Can I give some in few lines as such?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So basically, I just wanted to say that we are in the business of selling IoT devices, but I do
No, no, your brand, your brand. You
selling
like a person.
drinks.
Okay, fine. So we'll come back. Okay. Anurag, over to you.
So it was the room is small yet very effective and extremely meaningful. I think the best discussions happen in a small gathering, not in a very big sort of group. So I definitely appreciate all the speakers and the thoughts. As for my brand, I don't have any brand as of now. I think my experience is still very limited. Hopefully in the future there should be a brand. You should hear. Hopefully you will hear about it. But as of now, I don't have any brand as
All right, fine. Being very humble there, Anurag, but that's fine. Another day. uh, Ravi, over to you. Your impressions of the room and what's your brand according to you? Ravi, are you there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you repeat the question? Please?
Your impressions of the room today and what is your brand according to you?
My the room is excellent, and I always love this kind of conversations with you. And I can, I'm a marketing consultant for packaging materials. My brand equity had gained my brand equity working in this group almost for the 3 decades. Anybody in the industry, it might be an industrial brand or a consumer FMCG brand, everybody knows me very well by name. Any solution if they need into a packaging, they always that brand what I had created for myself.
Okay. Thanks, Ravi. Lost you for a little bit. That's not a problem. AJ, over to you. I have the first question is your impressions of the room, and the second question is what do you think is my brand? I should shuffle it up a little bit. Can't hear you, AJ. I think you're glitching. Could you just come back to the room again? Okay. While AJ sorts that out, let's move to. Okay. You're back.
Yeah. Hi. So, the beauty of this room is that it's extremely systematic and well planned. Um, there is a very clear pathway to the kind of discussions that you want. It's well laid, well connected, so that right through the entire session, everybody gets a grasp of where we start and where we end. That's most important. Unlike many rooms, you start with an agenda and you don't know where you reach and what you get out of it. To that extent, this is a very well planned room. And particularly when you take concepts such as branding and rebranding, it's extremely important to set up the steps in terms of what are the. So I think that way Nisha had planned her discussion guide, as I would say, perfectly, because she took this entire room step by step and was able to frame the entire concept in a very simple manner. So kudos to you, Nisha, because I know how difficult it is to run a session on branding, and I think you have done it very well. I
Thank
must congratulate you. Okay.
that.
It is not. Let me tell you, it is extremely difficult to run a branding session. It's not easy because what is the most important thing. None of us talked about logos or design or colors. Invariably, when it comes to branding, it ends up there. That's exactly what I said. The way you structured the conversation, the way you managed to bring in the seeding of the important frameworks in branding, that's absolutely excellent. Uh, Good. Okay. So, Anup, coming to your brand. Well, you're putting me in a tight spot, but yes, um, you are a mind reader, Anup. You know, you have the knack to read the mind, and then uh, that's what I would say. You're a mind reader, an excellent mind reader. That's your brand.
That- that's amazing. Okay, Biju. Thanks, AJ.
No, it is.
Biju. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.